Hello, everyone, and welcome to the virtual Darlington Raceway as we get ready to go racing in the Northwest Racing's ARCA Series here on LSRTV. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside of the booth tonight is Sam Dyer with our producer, Carlos Acosta. It's expected to be an interesting one tonight. 140 laps on the docket at the place they call Too Tough to Tame, Sam. This track eats tires and can be very tricky for our competitors this evening.
Yeah, it is going to be extremely difficult for these drivers. Turn 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 completely different. So the drivers are going to have to figure out how to adapt. And also been hearing from the drivers, this setup is extremely loose at times and it randomly tightens up on you. So drivers really have to keep their heads at the ready. And it's going to be a lot of trying to figure out where they want to place their cars early on. But I mean, this is the ARCA series. It's development. It's allowing these drivers to get a little bit more track time before they hop into those cup cars or truck cars later on in the week.
And one of the things you see right immediately is it's very hot as well. InSim Day is May the 6th, 2021. 86 degrees Fahrenheit is your air temp, most of quality skies with the 99-degree track temp, fairly humid as well at 52%, and very gusty and very windy. Winds currently gusting to the side, over top the front stretch grandstands towards the back straightaway. And currently gusting as high as 13 miles an hour, Sam. So it's not going to be easy as well in terms of the level of grip, as well as the turbulence that these drivers could feel in the corners today.
Yeah, that wind is climbing and the heat as well as climbing. Since we've been talking, the track temp has already gone up 2 degrees. All these drivers throughout the week, they've been practicing, and the track temp's been anywhere from about 99 degrees to 120 degrees at times. So they're going to have a variation of how they're going to attack this track. But luckily, it's kind of on the cooler side of how it's been throughout the week.
Absolutely. And keep in mind, as once more, this distance is what drivers will also experience when it comes to the trucks for Road to Pro next week for that qualifying series for drivers trying to make it towards that side of the iRacing bracket. But so far, it's been an interesting campaign, Sam, because there's been 5 different winners so far on the campaign. Kevin Smith, Scott Hutchinson, Cole Raz, BJ Tidrick, Justin Yee have all found victory lane in this series. And keep in mind, when it comes to these drivers as well, you mentioned it, a chance to develop an intermediate league. It's not a series where you can see every single week the top drivers in the Truck and Cup Series take part. They are allowed to race on occasion, but it's been so far a season where we've seen multiple different drivers come out on top and take the checker flag.
Yeah, 3 out of the 4 drivers that have won this season are drivers that are normally racing in the cups and trucks, that of Cole Raz, BJ Tidrick, and also Justin Yee last week. So this is actually the first week where we are having a full lineup of truck and cup drivers that have been dominating up in those series. So this is giving an opportunity for those development drivers, for some of them to try to get a win. But for both of Scott Hutchinson as well as that of Kevin Smith, they're trying to go for their second win this season. And for both of them, I gotta say, they're both looking pretty quick here today, with Kevin Smith looking like the favorite.
Qualifying is now underway for drivers on the circuit, led by George Watson as the first driver set to take a time in the 6.9 machine. He'll be driving the Subway Eat Fresh machine, as drivers in practice set the fastest lap times of 29.2s, that being Carl Burke, followed by Kevin Smith, Ryan Bloom, Dennis Moore, Toby Ritters, the top 5 in session. So at the moment, these drivers trying to make their way around the track, and keep in mind, the fastest way around here is up against that wall, especially in turns 3 and 4, with the grip levels being not as high in the bottom side in 3 and 4 as well. The amount of momentum you have to carry around here, Sam, in 1 and 2. Talk us through a lap here as we follow along with some of these drivers.
Yeah, I mean, coming here, we're seeing these drivers coming off of that of turn 4 with the driver on right now, but coming in turn 1 and 2, this is the wider section of the course. So you can really, the outside the wall is quick, but early on you can run low, as a lot of drivers been talking about. The outside wall just sneaks up on you just like that. You get loose and out into the outside wall. Hard contact for the 44 of Dennis Moore, who's going to have to try once again and get a new car. But that is exactly what we're going to be seeing a lot of during this race, of drivers coming out of turn 2 and that wall just sneaking up.
Keep in mind, if you do take the wall in qualifying, it invalidates said lap, as we see several drivers currently making their way around at the various ends of the racetrack. And at the most part, some of these drivers feeling a bit more comfortable running at the bottom groove. You're seeing Scott Hara, for example, just finishing up his qualifying run on the top screen. Bottom side, that's Dennis Moore now making his way back out for the warm-up lap. And you can see just how these drivers are having these different approaches here to this circuit to make sure they don't hit that safer barrier, because keep in mind, you don't want to get major damage here either.
Yeah, and recently it's been a very inconsistent on what the type of damage you're going to get if you bounce off of that wall. At times, it's a little bit of a scrub, not too much damage you can really kick off after it. Other times, I've seen drivers bounce off the wall and actually get what's known as a meatball, which is required time that you have to go into pit road and get service done, and that could cost your race completely. So drivers have to be concerned of that outside wall. It is going to be the biggest danger throughout the whole entire night, but like you stated, it is the fastest part to be around the track if you can stay close to that outside wall.
New quick time at the top of the board by 5/1000 of a second. Carl Burke is now at the top of the standings in the 53 machine, followed by Judd Wakefield, Dennis Moore, James Vining, Stephen Paulison, the current top 5. 18 drivers trying to set times. 11 have taken times in total so far.
Yeah, when we just saw there, Kevin Smith, he was trying to get his first lap in, but got loose through 3 and 4 and actually was going to have to dump that time. And a lot of these drivers, they have to be concerned on how they're going to be able to save, have the best runs they possibly can have. But right now, Burke, top of the board. He was top of the board during practice. Not surprised. He's number 1 and try to get the pole here.
And he's had top 5 speed all season so far in this campaign, but still looking for a victory. If you think back to last year in the Cup Series for Northwest Racing Series, he was also very competitive there, and at one point was one of the favorites for the title in the 53 machine, as several drivers now currently wrapping up some of their times. Kevin Smith, keep in mind, has not taken an official time. He was second quickest in practice, and one car is crashing in the pit lane. Smith nearly crashes coming off the racetrack in turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, it looked like Paulison was done with his times. He was just cruising around and decided to dump it into the barrels. So luckily he did get his time, currently 5th on the board. But yeah, that is not a way you want to end qualifying.
Take a look at Dana Rogers now making their way around the racetrack in the 07. This is the second time around for them. They ran a 30.5 in practice. And the interesting thing has been the vocalization of wanting the bottom groove to see a bit more grip. Are you more in towards that way, since there is that discussion with the Road to Pro qualifying series coming here next week?
Yeah, I mean, early on, a lot of drivers are going to be trying to stay low just because they feel a little bit more comfortable of trying to avoid the wall. And I've been seeing a lot more drivers throughout the last couple of months really trying to utilize staying low at the dotted lines. And it's one of those places where some drivers, they can find speed, and others it's bogging them down and actually costing them a lot more wear and tear, because you're turning in a lot more when you're running as low as some of these drivers are.
Under 3 minutes left to go in qualifying. Kevin Smith did not set an official time after 2 laps. Ray Fournier is yet to come to the racetrack. Ryan Bloom, Robert Gambill, Jimbo Pfeiffer, and Frank Harris among the drivers who have not set times as well. Now, let's talk a bit about, in detail, the race details in particular, where we mentioned it's 140 laps. It's a race, though, you need to make sure you save the tires, Sam. Just 3 sets of tires available in the pits tonight.
Yeah, and with those 3 sets, if you have an early caution, some drivers might try to use a set. But if the race goes green, looking at the fuel run, this is looking like it's going to be a 2-stop race, which means drivers, they've got only 1 extra set of tires to figure out where they want to place it, if that's early in the run or save it for those final 20 laps or so.
60 to 65 laps, that estimate, as we see Ryan Bloom is now taken to the racetrack. He was 3rd quickest in practice. Curious to see how he does. He's been known to be extremely fast on the short run. Long run, though, has been an issue, and of course, you need to be strong at long run if you want to win at Darlington.
Yeah, and for Ryan Blum, he's come out with a pretty decent week last week, able to finish, was running in 2nd place a lot, but a completely different course. They were at the Bristol dirt course, and 2 major handfuls at the dirt course, and now here at Darlington, it's a lot for these drivers, especially for the development drivers, is the quick changes that they're going through this season.
Absolutely. It's very important to be adaptable with this type of racing as well. To know the circumstances, to be able to battle the racetrack. It's a 29.8, by the way, the first time around for the 29 machine. That's seventh quickest. As nearly spins it around, coming around the second time. As we've seen, the majority of the quick times have been on the first way around, and that's just the nature of the tire, especially with how the fall-off can be here. It's going to be tricky, though. We talked about potentially on the starts and restarts, especially on colder tires, and with the potential of tire spin once you wear in those set tires.
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing these drivers really struggling just by themselves, trying to get off of corner number 2. And now we're going to be seeing drivers potentially being side by side going through corners 1 and 2. These restarts are going to be very chaotic, being side by side, and how they're going to be able to adapt it and really formulate themselves to get in right formation so they're not putting each other in a dangerous situation.
Final seconds qualify now rolling as the 25 completes the cool down lap for his opportunity. But overall, 13 drivers take qualifying times at the place they call Too Tough to Tame for the 6th race of the season for the Northwest Racing Series and its ARCA series. A chance for drivers to learn and develop. And now a chance to see who can win at iRacing's virtual Darlington Raceway. Let's take a look at your starting grid for tonight's action as Carl Burke will start on the pole tonight. He recorded a 29.479 in qualifying. That was 5/1000 of a second quicker than Judd Wakefield. Then it's Dennis Moore and Ryan Blum starting in row 2. James Vining, the Catman, will start in row 3 alongside Stephen Paulison, with Toby Ritters in row 4 alongside Cameron Iverson. George Watson will start in 9th with Aaron Cooper. Scott Harrah will start in 11th. Rounding out your top 12, Sam, is Jeff Hagan.
Yeah, and then in 13, it's going to be Dana Rogers, the last driver to put down an actual time. And these final 4 drivers of Kevin Smith in 14th, expecting him to have a charge through this traffic. It's going to take a while with these tires on how he's going to be able to get through that. In 15th, it's going to be Ryan Forner, who's going to be in the 26th. Then you got Robert Gamble, Frank Harris, as well as Jimbo Pfeiffer, who's going to be rounding out your top 18. This is a smaller field than what we've been seeing most of this season, but certainly a lot of drivers hoping for a good day. And for some, it's just to survive and hope that they are at least driving straight by the end of the race.
And to put this into perspective, as the drivers get ready to roll here for tonight's action, the track temperature has picked up to 107 degrees Fahrenheit. Today, once more, is May the 6th, 2021 in sim time, just past 2:11 p.m. Winds currently have calmed down to about 10 to 11 miles an hour to the south. 86 degrees is still your air temp for today's action. As the iRacing pace car now rolls, your keys to victory first of all tonight, Sam.
I mean, it's stay close to the wall, but don't touch it. The wall is not your friend. And then for 2, figure out your strategy early. What are you going to be doing if this race stays green? Are you trying to save fuel early to try to turn this race into a one-stop? Or are you trying to focus and pit early so that you can easily get your 2 stops? And then for number 3, just make sure you stay up front and you are facing the right direction. That outside wall, I think that is going to be the biggest threat for a lot of these drivers. But Justin, it's exciting. 140 laps. I cannot wait.
Who do you feel is your favorite for tonight?
I gotta say, for me, it's gotta be Burke. I mean, that 53's been looking good. Easy pick to say, but if there has to be a dark horse, Kevin Smith. If he can somehow be patient, which that has been the weakness of this 00 team, is having the patience to cut through traffic. But if he's found that patience this week, Kevin Smith, also another driver to watch out for.
It's time to go racing from Darlington Raceway. Race number 6 of the campaign is all set to go. The green flag waits up at the stand. We're underway from the place they call Too Tough to Tame. Carl Burke leads after 2 laps. Dennis Moore already up to second, meanwhile, with the fastest lap so far. 29.859 with the dive to the inside. Wakefield takes a peek back to the inside. Not able to get the run as he loses a bit of momentum coming off the corner. Already the field has separated out a decent bit so far, Samuel, especially Burke, who is pulled away by already a second and a half.
Yeah, I mean, Burke, based off of who we were seeing fast during practice, they are nowhere close to the 53. I mean, you got Ryan Blum, who's back in 4th place, kind of trying to get into his own rhythm. And then also you look back in 11, that's where Kevin Smith is. He's slowly making his way forward, but Burke's got no challenge, and he's just pulling away.
Trouble down the front straightaway for Dana Rogers. He's hit the turn 3 and turn 4 wall. The 07. His back rolling was in 15th position, but did not get collected by any cars as Rogers rode the safer barrier. We stay green for now. Rogers currently running on the apron of the racetrack as we look at some of the battles starting to form up. Currently one of the bigger movers so far, by the way, has been Kevin Smith just in front of this battle, going on for 13th. This is Hagan battling with Robert Gambill at the moment as Hagan nearly snaps it loose.
Yeah, I mean, all these drivers on the entry and also on the exit, they just seem to be wheeling it and using a little bit too much wheel to get into these corners, so turning too much, and it is really looking like the back end is wanting to kick out almost every time I'm seeing these drivers turn into turn number 1.
And trouble for Wakefield from the top 2. Check that top 3. Ended up hitting the wall coming into turn 3 against the Darlington, South Carolina logos and spun it down the racetrack. We stay green for now, but Wakefield is back to 11th. Not the way he wanted this race to start.
Absolutely not. They were really hoping for a better day, especially with how great of a qualifying run that Wakefield had. It was a lot of trying to run clean and up front. That damage, I mean, that is something that is going to take a while, and hope to get some, as we're going to be seeing here, this is the replay of what exactly happened.
See what happened with Rogers on the top screen. You can see how close several drivers got to colliding with Rogers. Or Dana Rogers found their way to the inside wall, back rolling towards the apron. By the way, the race lead is up to 2 seconds. Wakefield is still trying to claw his way back up to 12th with Robert Gambill at the moment, holding on to that spot up 4 positions, Gambill so far.
Now, we talked about Ryan Blum and how he's got really quick early speed, and it's later on those late runs where we really don't see that 25 really stay up front. I mean, currently looking at his times, he's running pretty similar laps, but our leader, with the lap times he's putting down, I'm kind of concerned as Burke's been using his tires and being way too aggressive too early on, where this can really bite him in the back, really in the next about 5 laps or so.
Let's take a look at what happened. This is again in that battle for second position. You can see just how quickly he snaps into the wall. Great save, however, at the bottom of the racetrack.
Plenty of room on that apron for these drivers to be able to save themselves, and that is one of the greatest things about Darlington, is there is that space to try to save your car.
Coming up to 131 laps to go as several drivers are coming into the pit lane due to issues, including Frank Harris, who slammed the wall hard with significant contact. Iverson from 4th position also rode on top of the safer barrier just now in the 65, has already lost the back bumper, the TV panel on the 65.
Yeah, completely ripped off after going into the safer barrier, and luckily still have to be driving forward. These drivers do have one faster pair in their back pocket if needed. So if you come into pit road, use that faster pair. You have a clean new car to utilize, but if you come in now under green, you're going to be going multiple laps down.
Unfortunately, looking like Iverson will come down the pit lane to use that faster pair. Frank Harris has already used it. Rogers has pulled off the racetrack, is your first DNF of the event so far. Let's take a look at what happened. You can see just how quickly that wall catches up to you, and it's an art form to enter the corners here, Sam. For some, they like to enter lower than sweep up high. Others, it takes a lot of practice to stay high and stay high throughout the whole corner.
Yeah, I mean, when you are starting high, there's not a lot of space for you to, if you make any mistake, you're done. You're going to be placed inside of the wall. And that's why a lot of more drivers like starting low and kind of doing a diamond action where you go low after your apex, you get close to the outside wall and you dive down through the straightaways. But that just did not work there for Iverson.
Currently, by the way, a good battle is starting to form up for 4th position on the racetrack. You can see Robert Gambill still trying to battle for 11th. Currently, that's where the 25 machine is trying to hold on to that position. Start to break away a little bit from Stephen Paulison and Kevin Smith, who continues to charge his way through the field. Smith is up 8 positions as we look for the back end of the 25.
Yeah, right now, Ryan Blumman, he's doing a great job, but has to be aware that both Paulison and Smith, they're coming with head of steam. Smith, one of the fastest cars that last time by, was the fastest car, as well with the 69 of Waltz, who's also looking good for himself. Both those drivers run in the middle of the pack, but faster than what our leaders are putting down.
Also taking a look, meanwhile, at Aaron Cooper, gaining a ton of momentum on Scott Hara. This is the battle for 9th. Has a bit of a loose moment in that sequence. Also, Wakefield is now in the wall down the back straightaway. Wakefield has slammed the wall in the 50. He's now peeled off the racetrack.
Also, it looks like we're seeing the tire damage from Burke. He has really been being aggressive, beating on these tires, and it is costing him he's got a battle. Moore is right on the back bumper of the 53.
Battle for the race lead is on. Burke has fallen off by 0.3 a lap, as Moore has quickly closed up the gap in these first 15 laps. It was up to 2 seconds just 5 laps ago.
I mean, that's that early run where the drivers, they feel like, hey, I'm starting to feel a groove. I feel like the tires finally have heat in them. I can be aggressive and start charging, but that is a great way to burn your tires off faster than everyone else that's pacing themselves and just waiting. And Burke's got to be careful into the outside wall, and there's more as well collected in it.
Caution is out as they crash in turn 3 and 4. Burke spins down the racetrack, and we're under yellow for the first time. And boy, oh boy, what an incident to start off this first major battle for the race lead today.
We've seen so many drivers get into the outside wall, but here's your pulls, poppers, instant replay, and it was our leader. Carl Burke he could not hold on, gets into the outside wall, and Dennis Moore nowhere to go either with the 44. Both first and second place collected, bringing out caution number 1.
And it's so easy for that to happen too. That's one of the common causes of caution flags is driver hits the outside wall, next driver behind has no time to react.
No, nothing at all, especially when you're that close, and it's just being a victim there. And really looking at Dennis Moore, that contact that he got doesn't look like it was too hard. He kind of was a grazing where the car was just floating on his front bumper. But we'll have to wait and see if he wants to use a fast repair or not as drivers coming into pit road.
And this is where the strategy card comes into play. We talked about that fuel window being about up to 5 laps short of halfway projected. And for some of these drivers, they can make it on one stop from here, but the ones who stay out here are taking a bit of a risk here and electing to stay out on what would be essentially 17 lap older tires in terms of green flag runs, including Kevin Smith, your race leader now.
Yeah, half the field going to be staying out, the other half coming in, taking service, either taking just fuel and trying to get repairs done. But it looks like most of the drivers in pit road going to get 4 tires, and this is their first set. They only came in with 3, so now these drivers left with only 2 for the rest of the race.
Gonna make it very interesting indeed, as taking our glance at what happened for these drivers as we take a look at your Pulse Poppers instant replay once more. Again, under caution, and we mentioned what happened to Wakefield. This was just as he was trying to dodge a car spinning, slams and rides the outside wall.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing with these outside walls is it just grabs onto the cars, and you have to really slow down and pull it to the side. And sometimes it doesn't want to ever get off.
Take a quick break. When we come back, more racing action from iRacing's virtual Darlington Raceway. You're watching LSRTV for coverage of the Northwest Racing Series and its ARCA series.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and distributors. And with 6 nationwide warehouses, we're where and when you need us. So when you're looking for a transmission that is like new, only better, instill confidence and install ETE Reman.
Welcome back to Darlington Raceway for more coverage of the Northwest Racing Series and its ARCA Series. Here on LSRTV, Justin Prince, Sam Dyer with you with Carlos Acosta in the director's seat. We're under caution coming to 121 laps to go, approaching the end of lap 19, and what's been an interesting one so far. Our first major battle for the lead after Carl Burke had a lead of more than 2 seconds evaporate, ended in a shower of sparks after Burke slammed to the outside wall in 3 and 4. It's hit by the second place driver at the time, Dennis Moore. Burke is now back in 12th position as a result of the incident, but strategy has come into play with half the field electing to take a set of tires, half the field on older tires, coming up to 1 to go this time.
Yeah, an absolute thriller we were seeing there for the first 15 laps, seeing that lead just go away in an instant. But I mean, that's kind of a note for Burke to take in. It can't be too aggressive early on. Those tires do not last if you are pushing it as hard as you can be. And both, I think for a lot of these drivers throughout the field, they're understanding it is very difficult, and we're going to be seeing it's going to be odd seeing the back half of the field with the fresher tires, how well they can attack these corners, even though they're going to be slipping and sliding. And for that top half that did not take tires, didn't pit, how well are they going to do with the older tires that might give them a little bit of trouble on this restart?
And this is going to be interesting how these drivers handle potential tire spin here with the rough surface here at Darlington Raceway. See how these drivers handle the restart as Kevin Smith really backing it up this time. Tire difference, 18 laps, including the pace laps. Green flag is out, and we're back underway. A decent launch as the bottom line gets a better run, though, than the rest of the field. Keep in mind, drivers can't change lanes before the start and finish line. That is a pass-through penalty if they change lanes before the start and finish line on a restart.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting call by the admins on how they're going to be calling this one, just because of how difficult it is, especially on how the exit of the corner with the pace car pulling off, how these drivers are going to have to hold their lines on restarts. But right now, Kevin Smith pulling away, and hard action. Dennis Moore in the middle of the pack. He's got the freshest tires, and he is bumping off every machine trying to move forward.
That Beaver State Racing machine diving to the bottom of the racetrack and is already up inside the top 5. Carl Burke also trying to utilize the bottom. This is a sketching part to try and go side by side, especially off of turn 2. James Vining, though, able to power by on the high side.
I mean, what a move there by Vining in the 333. Just doing a great job trying to figure out how to get by. And it's kind of a cluster of machines with Vining and those behind. They're all the ones with fresh tires trying to figure out how to move forward. And it's only been Dennis Moore that has figured out how to get by. But here comes Vining way low.
Vining able to dodge on by, still too wide behind. One car up in the wall, it's Scott Hara. Scott Hara drives down the racetrack into Vining. Caution is out for the second time as the 04 stops in the bottom of the racetrack.
Absolutely nowhere to go for the front pack, and that is a scary situation because even that of Moore's was coming up quickly on that of the 04. Man, what a hard leg. Here's your polls poppers instant replay of the action that happened up front.
And it started really with the contact to the wall going on with the 04 machine riding the fence as soon as he comes unstuck, right into Vining.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I was talking about with drivers trying to get off the wall, and they're pulling so hard to the left trying to get off that when they finally are able to get off of the wall, it just launches their car to the left side, and usually there's an innocent victim there.
He might have had help as well in this situation too, and that's one of the tough things. If you enter side by side, there is a chance you can get door-to-door contact when you sweep up there. As we'll take a look from this viewpoint, you can see that is Dennis Moore, who does give him some help.
Just the difference in the entry of speeds with fresh tires compared to old, and Dennis Moore probably was not expecting that closing rate to be that quick coming up on there on Hara, and which is a costly move both for Hara and well for Vining.
So Gambill, Watson, Vining, Hara electing to come down to the pit lane, the 04 machine using a fast repair in this sequence. 8-second pit stop, 5.6 seconds for Frank Harris. Robert Gamble still in the pit box while James Vining still rolling to the lane. But it's Kevin Smith who still leads at the moment. And this is the gamble that they're currently playing, is they're hoping at this point, you'd have to think, that they get a caution a little bit later, like a longer run that will allow them to then have the fresher tires, and then they're the ones charging through the pack.
Yeah, I mean, especially for those that pitted on their first caution, it's now putting them in the situation where they have to pit twice. And for everyone else that is staying out and have still not pitted even during our second caution of the day, they're trying to use these pace laps as a fuel saving strategy, trying to make it so they can stretch it all the way out to lap 71 if possible. We were given a fuel window of about 60 to 65 laps. With both these pace cautions that we've had, it's allowing these drivers to save about another lap or so. And if we see another 1 to 2 more cautions, Kevin Smith, he could be trying to save probably an extra set of tires and an extra pit stop than what he would have to use later on.
As the pace laps continue here, let's talk a bit about how these drivers got into this scenario to be able to run in this series, where to have full ARCA eligibility to run the full season, you must have an I rating below 3,000, and have not finished a season in the top 4 in either the Cup or the Truck Series the last 2 years, have never won a Truck, Xfinity, or Cup championship, and if a driver is ruled ineligible based on the above criteria, they can file a petition for an eligibility waiver. The ineligible drivers can race down 4 times in a season without a waiver. So it allows an opportunity for drivers to be able to develop their skills in a comfortable environment with drivers that are in a similar skill set to them.
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate goal of this series is, one, to really build the skills that these drivers are needing to really run well in the Cup and in the Truck Series, and also just to help these drivers that feel like they have an intermediate skill level to have a chance to run and have a chance to get some wins and build that confidence up for them to feel like, hey, I've won in the ARCA series, maybe I can run well and try to aim for a top 10, top 5 in the Truck Series or in the Cup Series. It's giving these drivers that opportunity to really build up their skills and their confidence.
By the way, you may have noticed Wakefield was in the pit lane for 50 seconds for damage repair. One to go signal this time by on the iRacing pace car. To reset your top 10, it's Kevin Smith, Stephen Paulison in row 1, Moore and Pfeiffer row 2, Burke and Fournier in row 3, Blum and Redders in row 4, Hagan and Vining in row 5. So your highest running driver on fresh tires is in 3rd. That bottom line is going to be very intriguing with those fresh tires as a result, and how they handle what happens in turn 1 and 2 and how they attack the race leaders.
Yeah, practically that whole entire inside row, besides Kevin Smith, who's going to be leading it, all have fresh tires and are ready to move. We saw how quick Dennis Moore, he cut his way through the field, went from 11th all the way up to about 5th in under about 2 laps. So the 44 knows how to utilize these tires, make some moves, and then he collided and took out the 04, bringing out our second caution. But watch out for these fresh tires.
This time stacking up the box for the restart. You see the onboard with Dennis Moore. Green flag is out. Off and away we go. No lane change this time. Smith stays on the left side of the racetrack. Moore already side by side for second. Paulison allows the backup, but it's backed up the lines and crashing in turn 1 again. Caution is out, and it's a massive one as the whole back of the field collides.
It was just a calamity, and they're still piling up into this wreck. More and more coming in, and it was just contact made around 4th place, where you had Jimbo Pfeiffer bumping into Ryan Blumman just because Pfeiffer did not want to back off at all, was trying to stay side by side with Burke, and it cost most of the field heavy damage.
So a lot of the fast repairs may be used here as the iRacing pace car comes out. Let's take a look at your replay. Once again, presented by Pulse Poppers for your instant replay. As Stephen Paulison was checking up on the incident, it was Paulison who ended up getting hit by Pfeiffer. And you see just how much they stack up there. Just about the entire whole back half of the field involved.
They just continue to stack up on one another, and one, partly because some drivers weren't holding their brakes and just letting their cars drift out of the naturally drift out of the way, but causing calamity for some, and this is now putting a real stickler for a lot of these drivers in the back half of the field, because some of them have already used their fast repairs, and now they're going to have to manually repair for the rest of this race.
Some hard contact, Vining collected into a second incident. 25 loses the back TV panel. Iverson, remember, just used a fast repair during the first green flag run of the race. You can see just how the smoke develops, where drivers had not much time to react to that scenario. And keep in mind, it all really started with a simple scenario you see several times. Paulison just trying to let a driver on fresh tires go.
Yeah, trying to be, generous and let a lot more give. These drivers are going to be given early on, but for Pfeiffer, was not thinking about that at all. Just wanted to keep his position. And I mean, look at the smoke. iRacing, they've done such a great job to really make smoke feel so much more realistic. And because of that realism, it is almost impossible to see what is on the other side of all that smoke. And you saw drivers being collected with one another.
So this incident collects at least 7 cars minimum. This incident. Of note, the majority of the drivers are coming in for damage repairs under this caution flag period. By the way, the drivers on fresh tires, Dennis Moore up to second. Carl Burke is now up to third with the caution flag. Was able to avoid the trouble. Up to sixth is Wakefield after his damage repairs done on the last caution. Gambill is up to seventh position. George Watson, 8th. Hagan, Vining, the top 10 drivers who have all now come in for service. And keep in mind, Vining has already had a fast repair used now as front damage for the 04 machine after using a fast repair a couple caution flags ago. If you were one of the drivers who are on that strategy now, Sam, where you're hoping to get some laps logged or trying to make it where you can essentially save from enough fuel to make it a one-stopper from here, what's kind of going through your mind knowing the attrition that's built up now behind you?
Yeah, I think it's partly drivers understanding, hey, I'm trying to stay out here to make sure that, I've got the fuel so I can make it to the halfway point. And then also, I think it might just be track position. We've seen so many cars on the last couple of restarts being collected in the middle of the field because of how the fresher tires and the older tires were really getting collected. So for Kevin Smith, he really hasn't been feeling any of that pressure. It's been everyone else from about third on back. They've been collecting a lot of incidences. And for Kevin Smith, I think this is a great call for himself. Stay out there, gives him another extra set of tires to work with if he can somehow get to the halfway marker. But for both of Pfeiffer and Foreigner, I'm concerned for both of those drivers just because they're still on those tires that they started the race on. And also just they're stuck in the middle of a lot of drivers that are willing to make some big moves.
So reset your top 10 once more. For the one to go signal, it's Kevin Smith, Dennis Moore, Carl Burke, Pfeiffer, Fournier, Wakefield, Gambill, followed by Hagan, Watson, Vining. The drivers who have just dunked down this caution flag were Frank Harris, Stephen Paulison, Scott Hera, and Blum. Toby Ritters is currently off circuit with damage repairs. Aaron Cooper now out of the race. But 65 of Iverson is 2 laps down at the moment. 14 cars are on the lead lap for this restart.
Yeah, I feel bad for Toby Ritter. I know he's been putting a lot of time these last couple of weeks trying to, really practice and learn and hone his skill, but he's all the way in the back.
And already Moore trying to get the upper hand on Smith. Will have the outside line. Smith off and away. Green flag is back out. Lap 32 now completed. 108 laps to go. This time by. How long does it take Moore to get up there is the big question, as already Burke is clear. Pfeiffer currently holding on to the 4th position off the launch. Wakefield and several others trying to scatter, as you can see that lead. Several battles starting to form up.
Yeah, the battle that we're seeing on screen in front of them, that is between that of Vining and also of Watson. And Watson, he has been pinched and put in the wall a couple of times. And I'm surprised that 69 is still running straight. But he is at a rough time, dropping back even further.
Vining trying to watch as a bit of a wiggle this time. One driver up in front of them, that was Frank Harris, now moves to the apron of the racetrack. Through several positions, nearly looping around, coming back on the transition. shuffle back to 10th position as a result of that. But up at the front, Dennis Moore, he's kept the pace dead even with Kevin Smith so far. Right now, 29 sevens from them. Carl Burke, 29 sixes.
Yeah, that last time by Kevin Smith, yes, he's on the tires he started the race on, but he just put his fastest lap down that last time by. Incredible that the 00 still has this speed.
Indeed, especially on a difference of what is 17, 18 laps. But Moore is ready to pounce. Smith moves to the inside. Moore takes the race lead for the first time.
Yeah, for Kevin Smith, understanding those are fresh tires, doesn't want to put himself in any type of situation that's going to be hindering him. So he's just going to be giving space to both the drivers of that of Burt and Moore. As here is a replay of some of the incidences. That's Frank Harris hard into the wall. That's what put him on the apron a couple of laps back.
I believe that was trying to avoid possibly Jeff Hagan in that scenario. And that hard lick is why he is now ducked down to the pit lane to get damage repairs done under green. So those adjustments to the new damage model definitely come into play here with some of these hard licks to the outside fence here.
Absolutely. I mean, it also gives us a great visual of what is being ripped apart whenever these drivers are making those hard contacts. But man, Moore is pulling away, and Burke, same scenario he was having on that first green flag run. He burns up his tires so quick in these runs that he is now so slow that Kevin Smith, who's on those completely older tires, is running just equal and at times faster than the 53.
See that with the lap charts down below right now as some of the traffic now being managed by your race leader. That is, by the way, Toby Ritters, who is in front of your race leader. That Moore is now having to try and find his way around. Ritters moves to the bottom right across the nose of Moore.
Very late move there. Also, other drivers having issues. Looks like Judd Wakefield, once again for the 50, hard in the wall, coming out of 2.
Not been a good race for the 50 machine, unfortunately, as we look as Stephen Paulison is now in a fight with Hagan. Hagan holding on to 8th position, a +4 quietly on the race. Kevin Smith is also stuck in the midst of traffic now, that same traffic with Ritters.
Yeah, Hagan's doing a great job for himself. I mean, coming into this race, one of the slowest drivers during practice, but he's figured out how to stay consistent. He's been figuring out the track each lap that comes around, and a great job for the 27.
See those drivers now fighting hard as, meanwhile, by the end of the racetrack, Burke is definitely getting held up a touch bit here. How about half a second slower per lap right now for the Richland, Washington-based driver in Burke?
Yeah, Burke, I mean, this is the one thing about Darlington. It's very difficult to figure out where you want to pass a driver. Some feel comfortable entering 3, others feel the most comfortable entering turn 1. But both those corners, you kind of have to risk your car on where you're going to place your machine to make these passes. If you go low, the risk of getting loose on the apron. If you go high, that outside safer barrier is always lingering there. So you got to be gutsy when you're going to be making these passes, especially with worn down tires.
Oh, trouble for Jeff Hagan. He's now spun it to the bottom of the racetrack in 1 and 2. And one car at the end of the racetrack gets squished into the fence. That's Robert Gambill, who just got squished up in the 54 machine. That was in a battle going on for 5th position with Wakefield.
Gamble, that is hard contact into the safer barrier, and Wakefield just came in so tight, came up the course, and took out the 54, who continues to come into the pits.
And he's struggling to turn. Take a look at that splitter. It is right on the ground. The valence, I should rather say, is digging into the surface. As look at that left front.
Somehow he missed pit road. He's got to go the whole entire race around. He's on the backstretch. This is terrible for Gamble, especially where that contact was.
Out of the racing groove is the main thing, though. Again, no caution flag. We stay green under 100 laps to go. As Kevin Smith has now lost 2nd position for the time being. The older tires, it's now more than 1 second back of Carl Burke.
Was watching the battle for 7th, and James Vining looks like he had issues, but we have a replay here. Going to be seeing the carnage that happened between Wakefield and Gamble, and Wakefield just gets tight in the center of the corner, coming back up in the 54. Nowhere to go.
Yeah, and you can see with that left front, when you ride the fence here or ride the wall, you have the chance to massively demolish the suspension. It's definitely demolished in that circumstance.
Gamble, after being put 2 laps down, finally was able to get to pit road, gonna get service done, and I mean, he's going to need a lot more cautions to get back into this race, but Gamble did have a fast repair, and he's back out there on course.
Has already fallen behind Cameron Iverson, though, on that lap cycle. That will put him in 14th position. Battle is starting to form up, by the way, just behind where Kevin Smith is, and just a bit behind Carl Burke, where Pfeiffer is, because Wakefield is looking to gain a position once more. Despite that hit before, he is still rolling and still quick, having to navigate traffic now in 1 and 2, and the traffic's in the middle of the racetrack. Move to the bottom, now go the race leaders. Scott Hara, who allows them by this time.
Great patience there by Wakefield. I could just sense that he wanted to take off and get going, but had to wait, be patient to attack Pfeiffer here. Pfeiffer is one of those drivers that still is not pitted. He's on those older tires that he started the race on. That's why we're seeing Wakefield finally start to click away and get up on the 447.
Last time by, about a tenth, half a tenth quicker was Wakefield. You can just see right there is where one of the main differences is. Pfeiffer telling he's getting tight. Wakefield gets the position, move him up to 4th position. It's a plus 13 still for Pfeiffer. That is your biggest mover. The race is a bit more contact for Wakefield to the wall.
Yeah, that's the same spot that we saw Wakefield take out Gamble a couple of laps ago. So it's still the center of 3 and 4, where that is where the track is at its narrowest. That's where Wakefield is having his most issues, and what that's telling me is that he is entering low and not slowing down enough to really attack the corners, and he is just flying in there a little bit too fast. He needs to back down his pace.
Of note, by the way, James Vining has pulled off the racetrack after slamming the wall just a couple laps to go in the 333. Iverson has also had to come down for additional repairs done. Wakefield, though, despite that hits the wall, is only 11 seconds back. Your race leader still in 4th position. Race lead is 4 seconds between Moore and Burke at the moment. And Dennis Moore looking very consistent up at the front of the field. Very little damage to that 44. A bit of a bobble, though, that time coming off the corner. Had to use the bottom line to exit the turn 4 to make sure he didn't slam the wall.
I mean, for Dennis Moore, he's been very clean. He's had a couple of contacts with that of Burke once Burke got into the wall and had his issues, and then also Moore had some contact, bringing out our second caution of the day. So, there's been a couple of bumps and bruises on the front bumper of the 44, but currently doing a great job keeping it clean off of the wall, which that is probably one of the most important things. That's something that Wakefield really needs to take note of. But Wakefield, I don't know how the 50 is still running with some of the hard contacts that he's had with the wall and other machines. He's got a tank here tonight.
Yeah, a lot of the damage has been on the back end of his race car, as we see at the moment. That is Jeff Hagan trying to stabilize his car in 9th position. There's Wakefield, meanwhile, catching up to the traffic and back into the wall with the rear end once more. And keep in mind that right rear in particular is skewed out more than the rest of the car, and it's so easy, especially when you're starting off in these cars, to just clip that right rear against the safer barrier. Not just here, but at any track.
Yeah, and also these drivers got to be careful not to do a little bit of monkey see, monkey do when they're entering these corners of drivers going into the outside wall. You got to make sure that you're running your race and you're not mimicking the drivers in front of you if they're making mistakes.
Pfeiffer is keeping within range, by the way, of Wakefield with the trouble, as to the bottom goes Frank Harris to let by the race leaders. And it's going to be interesting how the strategy now plays out, by the way, too, Sam, for the drivers who have yet to pit, because the caution flags are going to help them, obviously, on the fuel mileage. And they might, if they can make it halfway, at least, or at least to about 65 to go, then it's going to be very interesting on how this plays out.
Yeah, because especially for that of Kevin Smith, who's the furthest up, and also for Pfeiffer. Pfeiffer's been doing a great job for himself, but mainly Kevin Smith because of how much time. He's only 9 seconds off of where Dennis Moore is. If he can stretch it to the halfway marker, maybe a little bit further than that, and possibly try to run a little bit slower, try to save his fuel, you could possibly really have a shot to try to stay out there longer than everyone else. But for Dennis Moore, he's still going to need, and in the rest of the field, they still need to pit at least one time for everyone. Gamble, he just came into the pits to try to get repairs done about 8 laps ago. He'll also need to come in here shortly. Oh, they're 27, hard into the wall. Hagan, mistakes coming out of the corner.
And more trouble for Hagan, and that ends up breaking the front tie rod, it looks like. Going to put him now down to the pit lane. Unfortunately for Hagan, was running inside the top 10 for much of this race.
Oh, man, that is a hard lick for Hagan, and we'll wait and see if he has a fast repair left, because we know most of the field, they were caught up in that second yellow of the day. That was took out about half the field. A lot of drivers had to take safe repairs there. We'll see if there's any more drivers that have them. We know at least Kevin Smith still has one, and also for Pfeiffer.
Let's take a look at what happened in this incident as got loose with the traffic coming, got out of the way with some of the drivers who were running a bit quicker. But as soon as he came back up, it's similar to what we nearly saw with one driver before. Just snapped it once he got into that transition for the apron to the corner exit.
Yeah, and even while we were watching that replay, right when the replay started on your lower left, you saw the 04 getting a little loose through the center of the corner, and he went down. Hera luckily did not hit the inside wall, but 04 having issues for himself.
Got a fast repair available. By the way, under this lap, Kevin Smith has elected to come down and pit. Only made it 55 laps. So the strategy card now starts to come into play.
Yeah, and the timing of this pit stop is making it look like he might have to come in another time. So a lot of these drivers, you got to be careful on how far they can push it. And now the drivers that pitted on that second caution of the day, they now got to be thinking, how far can they push their cars out? Because I think Kevin Smith came into the pit road recognizing those tires were fading and he needed new rubber.
See some of the pit strategies at the moment. Includes some of the repairs done for drivers like Blum and Gamble in their midst, as Dennis Moore makes his first major mistake outside of that battle for the race lead before, slamming the wall with the right rear. Looks like his car is okay for the time being. Similar damage to Wakefield's machine. He still leads by almost 7 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, Moore, he could have been distracted of the cars in front of him. He had that of Gamble as well as Iverson. They were side by side in front of the 44, and maybe was slightly concerned on how they were going to be racing in front of the leader.
Keep in mind that these drivers going to have a lot of traffic to deal with, as several drivers have now come in for more stops. Pfeiffer has come in for a scheduled stop. 58 laps made it. George Watson has also come down the pit lane in the 69 machine and has used a fast repair.
Still the only driver that has not pitted all race long. That's going to be Ray Forner, who is going to be in 5th place for the 26 machine. And he's been trying to keep himself out of trouble. That's what Ray's been doing. And currently going to be pressured here by Iverson. But, you know, do what you need to do for Ray. Still on those old tires. Top 5 so far. Not a bad strategy as he's hit lap 61.
Going to be interesting, absolutely, if he can make it an extra 10 plus more laps on the gas. That's the mark he needs to be able to hit at minimum to have a shot at splitting this race. Moore continues to turn fastest lap times, 3/10 quicker than the field. Kevin Smith, by the way, new quickest lap of the race, 29.5 on the fresh tires. Only fell back to 6th position with the pit stop, but has to close up a lap plus on the rest of the pack and get up to Moore, as now you can see just how things have calmed down at his end of the speedway for Moore.
Yeah, something we haven't really touched on here, Justin, is how many cars are left on the lead lap. And they are drifting down very quickly. We are left with a total of 5 cars left on the lead lap, soon to be only 4. Once if Ray can somehow hold off that of Moore's, but Kevin Smith probably had the biggest scare of the night. Frank Harris somehow was able to get out of the way of that of the 00, but they almost made collisions a lap ago.
That could have been disastrous, absolutely. And keep in mind, cold tires. Oh, trouble,
Oh, no.
and it involves the race leader. It's Dennis Moore. No caution. We stay green. Hard contact for the 44. Unbelievable.
Same thing we saw with the 27 of Hagan. The front nose completely dug into the ground. Luckily, it's right at pit road's entry, but this is a very early stop. Here's your Poles Poppers instant replay of taking out the leader in lap traffic as they were battling hard.
And this race just changed as Gambo hits the wall, becomes a 3-car incident. Wow. Just nowhere for more to go.
Just gifting the lead to Burke now. Is Carl Burke just coasting? And somehow Jade Wakefield in second place in the 50, who's just been cruising along, and somehow that right side still lands.
So now it gets really interesting on how this plays out. Keep in mind, there is a bit of a difference between these drivers and the strategy in the fuel in regards to that because of some of the damage repairs Wakefield has taken in this race. It's about 8 or 9 laps difference between those drivers as Kevin Smith, who is now in 5th position, left behind the traffic. Here's your race leader, Carl Burke, now up by 11 seconds because Wakefield had to let by traffic.
Yeah, drivers now got to be figuring out how to adapt with one another. Green flag pit stops mean there's different cycles on who's got extremely fresh tires compared to those that are hoping for pit stops to come soon for them. As here's Jade Wake, who's just running in 2nd position. Also, Justin looks like another driver, DNF of the day.
Robert Gambill out for the day. Frank Harris is also pulled back off the racetrack in the 11 machine. So, pit stops are active as Wakefield again up in the wall. 74 laps to go coming up this time by. See how things play out. By the way, how costly was that incident for Dennis Moore? He is now 8 seconds back behind Kevin Smith on the cycle.
Yeah, I mean, he was already looking pretty good, but you also got to think, Kevin Smith, he's been out there for 8 laps with fresher tires, and each lap, Smith was running about 1.5 seconds, almost 2 seconds faster than what that of Moore was running. So it kind of makes sense that there is that much of a difference, but obviously an instant strategy change for Moore.
Taking a look at the track map, you can see the differences in where some of those drivers are right now at the time being. By the way, Wakefield has pit as well, should be worth noting. Burke is all the way down the back straightaway, letting by James Vining. Currently, Moore with the fresher rubber now by those couple laps, but with the fast repair he had to take, is currently running now in turn 3 compared to Burke at the start and finish line.
Yeah, starting to see those leaders coming to pit road, and this is going to give us a chance to see with this pit cycle fully going through where some of the rest of the drivers are going to be lying and who's really going to be on the lead lap and who's not. I got to give credit to Stephen Paulison. Great job in 2nd place for the 58. Really haven't talked about him, and I think that is the best news when you are not being talked about here at Darlington because so many drivers getting into the outside wall.
Yes, indeed. It's been a quiet day after some of the trouble earlier for Paulison. From Salem, Oregon, is the driver. Started sim racing with his child, playing some racing arcade games. Eventually got suggested to sim racing. Has got hooked, also does our games, and enjoys good competition. It's been a solid race and a solid pace from the 58. Carl Burke, meanwhile, will coming a halfway this time by. So Burke will use what appears to be his 2nd set of tires this pit stop.
Yeah, and Paulson, one of those drivers that pitted in the most recent caution that came out. So he's actually had one of the freshest tires compared to our top 10. And he was slowly running down Burke, but with Burke coming into pit road, it now gifts the lead to the 58.
Now it gets intriguing on how you try and break down the strategy for the end of the race, Sam. For some of these drivers, it appears at the very least that the thought process might be at least get to this point of the race and then do you either split it or do you try and make it to the end on the gas?
I mean, for most of these drivers, it's probably push it as far as your tires and gas can take you. So for a lot of them, it's going to be pushing it to anywhere from lap 120 to 130 and doing just a splash and go for some, maybe just 2 tires. I think that's going to be a call for a lot of these drivers is who's going to just take fuel for if this thing goes green, or who is thinking about just going for a little bit of tires to try to gain any time that you can steal from pit lane.
By the way, Carl Burke, after his pit stop, has cycled a significant margin behind the drivers on different cycles of Kevin Smith and Dennis Moore. So is Jimbo Pfeiffer. How about 17 seconds behind them? That is a lot of time to lose. You have to wonder if it's from his pit entry, possibly.
And he lost a lot of time on entry. That car was so damaged. He kept on losing it. And it also looked like having troubles getting by lap traffic. That was another issue for Moore, as he's still trying to figure out how to get by everyone here. A driver that looks like he's having issues, that's going to be Iverson, coming out of pit lane. And this is kind of a non-scheduled pit stop, as you see on screen. Kevin Smith, he has got a hornet's nest around him.
And right now trying to make sure he keeps his car safe. He has a 3-second plus buffer still to Dennis Moore. That's Wakefield. That's behind him for the time being. It's lining up in front of him at the moment, and this is going to help Dennis Moore a little bit. Potentially take what would be potentially the net race lead for now. Fighting, meanwhile, moving now to the high side. Kevin Smith just can't get there, it seems, in the 333.
Yeah, I mean, coming over the radios, drivers trying to figure out how to help each other out by getting out of the way. Suddenly, Vining was trying to figure out how to get out of the way and actually was becoming a buffer. Vining is 12 laps down, and he was hoping for a better day for himself, especially if we look at the points. It's early in the season, but Vining came in second in the points, and this is not the run you're looking for, finishing back in 13th. He's hoping more drivers have issues in front of him.
Indeed. Now the next driver to try and pass by him will be Dennis Moore, who has now closed the gap to under 2 seconds and nearly spins it off the corner. Great save by Dennis Moore coming out the exit.
Yeah, Moore's starting to smell blood. He's starting to see Smith a little bit more. Man.
And here's something interesting. The 26 you just seen, Fournier able to make it 75 laps, including the pace laps and caution laps, keep in mind. He was the only driver not yet to pit, so he's got an extra set on just about everybody now in this field.
Yeah, and with 65 laps, the most you can go, that puts him right at the bubble marker. If somehow the 26 can stretch it, he just entered the mark of fuel run, making it. But the biggest struggle is going to be how are those tires going to be looking like, as the rest of the field still needs to pit one more time.
Well, one other driver did make it to that mark. It's Stephen Paulison. And Paulison was one of the drivers who came down and made sure he can make it to this mark on fuel. 47 laps will be the distance he makes it on this run. And now, he might have put himself in the driver's seat for this race potentially. We'll have to wait and see in about 30, 40 laps when we see potential stops again.
Dennis Moore, he's coming up to Kevin Smith. And Moore, he had such a major lead before being collected with lap traffic incident that forced his hand to pit earlier than he wanted to, but that strategy call might not have hurt him, as here he comes on the outside. Here comes the 44. This is Kevin Smith with those older tires, nothing, and is going to give up that position.
Let him go that time on the outside line. So move Dennis Moore back to the point, and keep in mind, Dennis Moore, he's been running strong lately, especially on the long run, looking for his first win still. He's been performing very well. He led 69 laps over at Las Vegas Motor Speedway on April the 16th in one of the first races of the campaign, keep in mind. Also in 8th place at the Daytona Oval, struggled at the Daytona Road Course with a 14th place finish there.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of these guys trying to figure out how to recover for themselves, especially, you got to look at that road course. Probably one of the hardest road courses with these ARCA cars. There's so much power and not a lot of grip that they give you.
As a driver, how often do you end up racing at these types of racetracks? Because I know a lot of the top sim racers love to race in these types of cars, Sam, because of the downforce and the way you have to drive them.
Yeah, I mean, especially with ARCA cars and the way that they're set up. These drivers are using the iRacing default setup. So these are the setups that the drivers are going to be driving with when you go to officials here at Darlington. So Well, for these drivers, it's a lot of throttle control on how you're going to be putting the throttle down, letting off through these corners just because of how snapping loose they can be at times and tight. It's a lot of focus the ARCA cars make you have to be at all times. And that's why most drivers love it, because it is making it to where the drivers have to be on their toes at all times and be at their best.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, traffic management starting to come into play still, as you can see several of the drivers trying to sort themselves out. Once more for Paulison, he is currently last car 1 lap down, trying to get himself at the very minimum up to that 25 machine who is up the road. So going to need to get up there at minimum in case trouble strikes. This has been our longest green flag race. Green flag 1 of the race so far.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch these drivers, especially in this long green flag run. We have been seeing a lot of wrecks that potentially could have brought out yellow flags, but they were wrecks under the racing surface, so not going to be bringing out a yellow. But another driver having issues, that's going to be Jeff Hagan. Hard lick on the back stretch, doesn't have a fast repair to work with, so he has to sit in pit road getting manual repairs.
Ended up breaking one of the fenders off his car in the left front in particular. That's going to be sizable amount of time. Some drivers have been getting repairs, Sam, as a result of some of these hits, as much as 6 minutes, which is a ton of time to lose on this racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, that's what putting a lot of these drivers multiple laps down. I mean, leading those drivers that have over 6 minutes, that's James Vining back in 13th, and you go all the way down to 16th where Gamble is. All those drivers had to be in there for over 6 minutes or more. Gamble's still in there. He's been in pit road for over 11, and Gamble, part of that major accident that Moore was a part of, but Moore able to recover, but Gamble not able to.
Let's take a look at the replay of what happened, by the way, to Hagan. And it would be, you can see, after he was letting by drivers once more, yes.
Oh, just wasn't prepared for that transition of how aggressive it is, going from the apron that's low, flat, to hard hitting on the outside, and then even a harder lick on the inside, and that's what's forced the 27 into pit road. It's been in pit lane for over 2 minutes, and he'll be there for a lot longer.
Actually just left the pit lane, but
he should have been there a lot longer. Wow, that pit crew is quick, but he's still, I mean, you can see that front bumper, it is completely smashed. I think he's recognizing, just get out there and run laps at this rate, and don't lose too many laps down, because some of the other drivers in front of them, he's got to at least try to run more laps if they have issues in front.
How difficult is it to try and drive a car with that type of damage, though, especially potentially to the steering?
Oh, it is so difficult, because it's already a handful just to run this course when the steering wheel is straight and working properly. And when it's not straight and not working properly, you got to back down your speed even more. And with that hard front end damage, already probably down on power, so you're already backing it off, and you just feel so demoralized when you're racing out there on course. And now going to be going another lap down. We'll see if Hagan's able to get out of the way of the leader of Dennis Moore. He'll go low once again, and same spot he had issues before, but cleanly can get up. But more lead cars, and it's just such a trouble when you're running this off pace. And I'm expecting the 27 to come to pit road here shortly.
Like he thought about it there as he tried to let by drivers. You can see that left front valence nearly scraping the wall, and the track rather, trying to wheel that machine around, and as mentioned, going to be very difficult for the time being. But at the moment, there are 5 drivers on the lead lap. It's Moore, Smith, Burke, Pfeiffer, and Wakefield, your top 5. Kevin Smith, he's fallen back now to 5.3 seconds. As one driver is up on the wall, it's Cameron Iverson riding the fence in the 65. Turn 4, no caution flag, we stay green.
Yeah, Iverson, this has not been his day. He's had to come to pit road 5 times and a lot of damage to repair. He lost the back bumper at one point and somehow still chugging along in the 65, and a goal just to finish, hopefully at some point in the top 10, but needing some help. Here's your replay of what exactly happened to Cameron Iverson.
Actually, I believe it's the 04 who ends up hitting hard to the outside and locking it up to the inside.
Hera, hard contact.
And it was at the same time as what happened to Iverson, near identical times, if anything.
Yeah, Iverson had his issues, and then Hera had theirs, and just right in the center of the corner. We've been seeing a lot of drivers trying to get close to the wall and not hit it, but some drivers just stepping over the brim and going right in the outside wall. Somehow we stay green though.
Bill 4 has had to come down for some repairs rather at the moment. Did use a fast repair earlier in this race, I should emphasize. Battle is starting to form up now on the racetrack, going on for 4th position, Wakefield and Pfeiffer. As you can see, Paulison joins the lead lap. Now, Pfeiffer trying to defend for the time being, as Hagan has had more trouble on the bottom of the racetrack.
Oh, Hagan, he's just, the main thing is he's trying to get out of the way of everyone else, and it's kind of costing him. He's mirror driving more than looking out his windshield, and it's hurting. Wakefield easily making the pass over that of Pfeiffer for 4th place, and you know, having 10 lap fresher tires certainly helps when you can make a move like that.
And move Wakefield up to 4th position by a significant margin. Those are the fresh tires coming into play. And now the interesting mark is for when it comes to how Paulison now plays this race is he can make it on the one-stopper. Is he going to be able to build enough time up on the racetrack to make sure that he can defend? After all, the pit stop delta is only about 50 seconds or so in the lane, not including the entry and exit.
Yeah, and these drivers also have to back down, but for Paulison, the biggest issue is he is still a lap down. That is a lap that really Dennis Moore is probably going to be, once they pit, also for Smith, they'll probably still be on the lead lap after their service is done. And that means that Paulison would not have a big enough gap if this thing stays green. And, you know, it was a great strategy by the 58. It's just the math is not adding up for this to be a winning strategy.
It's going to be difficult. And this is the tough part too, right? That's where the fall-off definitely comes into play. Do you go for the fuel or the fall-off? It looks like these drivers in turn are going for the fall-off.
Yeah, I mean, we look at our top 5. There's so many different strategies going on, right? You've got that of Morris and Burke. They went with a 2 pit stop strategy. Smith's gone with a 1, as well as Pfeiffer. And then you've got Wakefield, who's gotten in the wall so many times that he's had to pit 3 times. But still, they're running close. All 5 still in the lead lap. But you're seeing both by Moore and by Smith just a dominating run for themselves. And I got to give credit to Moore. It has to be the fact that he has been able to save his tires and make the long run so much faster than everyone else.
I have to say it's been a great recovery from him. As, by the way, the 25 has come into pit for a scheduled pit stop. 3rd time overall in this race that Blum has come down. Still with that significant damage, keep in mind, was running in 7th position, as it looks like Kevin Smith is going to duck down. He hit the wall last time by in 3 and 4 with the tiny tap. Now has ducked in after only 40-plus laps, coming up to 44 to go.
Trying to remember if Smith ever have issues with 27 coming around once again. Hagan, just ever since he's clobbered the wall about 15 laps ago, it has gone up in smoke, being involved in some type of incident every 2 laps or so.
And keep in mind, again, it was running on the apron that he looped it around there. As let's take a look. Ended up getting loose down to the bottom of the racetrack once more, and same transition, same spot. Bye-bye race car.
Yeah, he just was trying to get up to speed on the apron because of how flat it was. Back end just kicks around for the 27. Again, hard in the inside wall. Still, I mean, got to give credit. I mean, the mental fortitude to continue running after having all of these mistakes. Credit to Hagan for still being out there on course.
Slowly trying to get valuable points here. Currently scored at the moment 10 laps down as he ends up hitting the wall once more in the 27 machine after letting by Toby Ritters. Wakefield able to try buys up to 3rd position.
Once again, here's the replay of the 27. Trying to give room for Ritters, and we talk about how there's the the chance of the inside being helpful for some drivers, but looks like he's just going to duck low, and It has just been a poor day for the 27. I think he's just with the damaged vehicle trying to figure out how to enter these corners properly with the poor steering, and still hasn't figured out that timing. And it's so different when you were racing with a normal car, and then it's just so off.
Again, keep in mind when it comes to this series, it's a chance for drivers to learn and develop, and this is an opportunity for him to learn how to drive a track like this in this type of a car.
Yeah, I mean, if you can handle an ARCA car, you certainly can transition that, especially with how loose it can be and how much throttle control. That can transition really easily to the trucks. The trucks and the ARCA, with the way that the looseness feels, they're pretty similar at times. So this is a good transition for a lot of these drivers. If they can figure out this is giving them an opportunity, as Kevin Smith almost dumps it into the inside wall, as the 00 had a major scare, but still chugs along.
In sixth position is the fastest car in the track, and those are the newer tires coming into play with the air pressures. As wow. Great save by the 00.
That is a race-ending incident if he somehow gets into that inside wall. But Kevin Smith, currently the driver he needs to catch up to, who is about 16 seconds away. That is Paulison, and Smith is climbing quickly, running about a second or more each and every lap, faster than 58.
And we know that Paulison, at the very least, has a great opportunity to potentially make it to the end on gas in that 58 machine. If that ends up being the main strategy, he's all the way down the front straightaway lane by James Vining at the moment. Kevin Smith is down the back straightaway, passing by other cars.
Also, something to take into note, Kevin Smith pitted early. That has been his strategy throughout the whole entire race. Dennis Moore, he had to be taken off a strategy because he was caught up in a wreck. And so for Dennis Moore, he had to pit about 8 laps after Smith. Took him about 14 laps to catch up to the 00. I'm interested to see if he stays out there longer than 8 laps. How much of a gap will Smith have over Morris? And will it be big enough if he's over about 10 seconds or so? Because it was about an 8 to almost a 16-second lead. But man, here they all are on this mini-map.
You can see how much the separation is for the top 5. Dennis Moore still has a 17-second advantage over Carl Burke. That's despite Burke on 7 lap pressure tires. That's how big that entry and exit came into play for the 53. Moore has been on it in the 31.7s for the time being. Currently 2.1 seconds of fall off for the drivers that are on 40-plus lap hole tires.
Yeah, it is incredible to see how well these top guys are able to really save their tires on the longer run. And we talked about how this track is kind of like a cheese grater at times. It just rips up the tires if you're not being careful and immediately focusing on letting off and not being too aggressive. You can lose your tires about 5 laps, and we've seen that for Burke in these first couple of runs. And it's been Morris. He has just conquered on knowing how to save the tires so well here at Darlington.
Of note, the 26 rode on his side down the back straightaway has now had to come down to the pit lane. That's why he's ducked down, and already the balance is dug into the ground as well from the contact.
That is a rough day for Fortner, who he's trying to just have a good day. He tried a different strategy out. One of those drivers that made a one stop and possibly had a chance to make it work. Not going to be able to make it for himself. Here's a replay of the 26. Hard into the outside wall, coming off the corner, and sliding on his side. That's a scary moment. Somehow gets on all 4.
I've seen drivers go on 2 wheels before. I haven't seen them ride their door before like that.
And the way that he was able to get it back on all 4, that is spectacular, because most of the time, if you were on your side and you somehow get it to tilt either way, you're flipping and tumbling. Great job there by Fortner.
He's off and away off the pit lane quickly. Wakefield has also ducked in for service this lap, as well as George Watson. Of note, when it comes to Wakefield, already off and away on his service, a 15.9 though in the pit box. Will lose him a bit of time on the racetrack. Currently, Paulison holds just an 8-second gap over Kevin Smith as well. Let's take a look. Race replay. This is going to be Frank Harris. Wow.
Very similar, just hard contact on the outside wall. And gonna park it, take the tow. Harris into pit lane.
Off the racetrack indeed. Carl Burke, meanwhile, will come off the racetrack and try and duck down to the pit lane.
Also in front of him, Pfeiffer comes in.
So pit window is open now for the drivers trying to make it here to the end, utilizing essentially all their sets of tires here in this race.
Oh man, that is again a mistake that rarely we've been seeing by Moore into the outside wall through 3 and 4. And for the 44, he's been out there for so long. I'm concerned that with how long he's staying out, there might be a big enough gap that he's not able to run down the drivers of Kevin Smith or that of Burke, because they're going to have a big enough lead over the 44.
And Moore has, I think, picked up on that as Pfeiffer comes out. Moore will come in this time by. The race leader will duck into the pit lane, and this will move Paulison for the time being up to the point when he gets to the end of the racetrack, possibly.
Paulison, he made the pit stop around lap 76, 77, just inside of the window with the fuel mileage that we were given to make it to the end. This is going to be a great strategy call for the 58 and possibly a net gain for himself. Might not be the race winning move, but certainly could be putting him in the top 5 if this strategy continues to go out and no yellow is waved. But I think the driver that is going for the win, that's got to be Kevin Smith. He has got over a 27-second gap over Burke, and that is massive compared to everyone else.
Absolutely huge indeed, as Burke lost a few more seconds in the pit stop window. Moore, though, will have to close up a gap of more than 11 seconds as he's now rolling off the lane, and Paulison is in the lead by just 4 seconds and losing a ton more with the traffic. Burke actually lost a lap for a moment. That's how much time lost to the racetrack. Was a gap of about 17 seconds, remember, before.
Yeah, Burke's going to have to figure out how to drive all the way around the course, also get around traffic if he wants to somehow get by Paulison. Smith, he's less than 3 seconds away from Paulison. Great run for himself. And that gap we were talking about between Moore, he finally got up to speed, and it was over 13 seconds. And it's going to be a close one for sure. Looking like it's going to be 27 laps or so to see if Moore can catch up to Smith.
And Smith actually lost a bit of time trying to pass by the traffic, about a second or so. Is it going to be enough clean traffic as well and clean track for Moore to get there? Because the traffic has been a major factor in this one at 29.7. Last time by to Smith's 30.9.
I mean, you got to think of the what ifs for Dennis Moore if he's not able to catch up to Smith, but it is looking like he's going to be able to do that almost over a second a lap, which my math, he's got plenty of time to catch up to Smith. Moore has been doing everything right, and even when he was caught up in a lap traffic collision and carnage that made him pit earlier, it still worked out for the 44.
It's been an incredible recovery indeed in this race for him. If he can get up there, it'd be absolutely huge.
I mean, you need skill, first and foremost, to be up here racing in the Northwest ARCA Series and just the Northwest Tour in general. And then, two, you need some luck. And for Dennis Moore, that carnage, if he was caught up in that wreck on the backstretch, I don't think he would have had enough time to recover and come back into this race. Because of where he wrecked, gave him opportunity to get immediately into pit road. And now a chance. He's running down Smith, and probably by the time that Smith catches up to Paulison, Moore's going to be right on both of their back bumpers.
It's going to be absolutely incredible indeed. Coming up to 24 laps to go in this race, and Smith is now starting to lose time all of a sudden. Smith, in fact, is starting to struggle a little bit, and the zero has dropped back to already more than 2 seconds behind Paulison all of a sudden.
Well, this is the one thing, though. We talked about how the drivers need to worry about their tires. We saw Burke early in the race. He was ecstatic and racing so aggressively that his tires burned out. And for both the 00 and the 44, because of how hard they're racing to catch up to one another and trying to build a lead, they're burning their tires and not thinking about saving them, which could be costing both the 00 and the 44.
And you know something crazy? How about this? shifting at Darlington is being used by Smith, I believe, in 3 and 4, and that might be why he's losing so much time all of a sudden. He's nearly been reeled in by Dennis Moore.
Yeah, Paulison, who's been out there, 22 lap differences between Paulison and Smith is losing time to the leader, who has 22 lap older tires, and Moore is there now, as well as Wakefield.
Oh, you can see on the onboard on the left side of your screen how Smith is trying to run this track. On the bottom of the track, he lets by Wakefield, he lets by Moore. Dennis Moore is up to second. Moore now needs to close up 3.1 seconds in closing on Paulison for the race lead with 21 to go this time.
If no issues happen, if we stay green, Dennis Moore looking to be our 6th different race winner of the season. Paulison also could have been that. Smith, he was trying to be our first 2-time winner this season. Dennis Moore, he pitted at the perfect time, and he has done so well at conserving these tires and trying to stay away from lap traffic after being caught up in a wreck. Doing such an amazing job. The difference, less than a second now.
How will you try and approach this run and try and approach this pass coming up? Down to about half a second now. Paulison has fallen off to the 31.6s. Moore still in the 30.8s. Coming down the front straightaway with 20 to go. This for the race lead. And Moore elects to wait for the back straightaway. Now looking, try and pounce though for the corner exit. There's the slide. There's the move. There's the pass. Dennis Moore up to the race lead. And with 19 to go this time, he looks to set sail.
I mean, now the question is, how many drivers are going to be left a lap down? Kevin Smith could not stay out. He burnt those tires so much that he has to come into pit road. He was looking poised for a top 3 finish, and now hoping for a top 10.
Unfortunate for Smith, believe he may also had contact with the wall. Fortunate for him, and now it gets interesting to see, can Moore hold on and make sure he keeps the car clean for just 18 more laps this time by. What a recovery it's been after being involved in a 3-car incident down the back straightaway, having to get a faster pair used, putting him onto a different strategy. Now he leads by 2.5 seconds over Paulison. It's 18 seconds back to third, as let's take a look at what happened to Kevin Smith and why he is in the pit lane.
Oh, aggressive hit there. Same spot. We've been seeing a lot of drivers having issues off of 2. And then looks like it's in the way of Pfeiffer. And I mean, that is just a terrible lap in general for Smith. And that's what forced him having to come into pit road. And he just got his service done. Didn't have a fast repair, so had to stay in for a couple of seconds. Now 3 laps down for the 0-0.
Currently scored in 8th position driving through. And keep in mind, this is one of the things to think about is once drivers reach 16 incidents, they have to serve a pass-through penalty in this series. Then at 20 incidents, a pass-through, 24 is a DQ. So keep that in mind for some of these drivers now that have been really hitting these walls throughout this race and getting involved in some of these incidents. As Paulison let by Pfeiffer, that is the 5th place car at the moment.
You know, looking at these drivers, if a late caution does come out, looking at some of the teams that might have a tire still left, I think Dennis Moore, he might be completely out of a set of tire. Jed Wakefield might also be out. Kevin Smith looks like he'll be out of a set of tires. Those that still have a set, that'd be Paulison in 2nd place. If a late caution does come out, the 58 has a chance, but that's if a caution comes out.
That's the mighty if, and this is a track, keep in mind, Sam, and we've seen this throughout the night, that tends to be a lot of green flag racing because of that big apron.
Yeah, the apron, just because of how large it is, and, you know, iRacing's pick of where the track surface is, if a car goes sideways on the apron, no yellow comes out, but they're spinning and wrecking on the track surface, then they will not then throw a yellow flag. We've seen a lot of cars, you know, at points you'd think a yellow would come out, but somehow we stay green, and it's really worked out for the 44 and a lot of these other drivers. Some other storylines that I'm keeping my eye on is that battle for 2nd place. Will Burke have enough time? He's been slowly cutting into the battle for 2nd, And Paulison might have to watch out. That 53 slowly, methodically each lap gaining and might be there when it's about 4 to 3 laps to go.
You can see some of the drivers, by the way, in terms of lap traffic management, trying to sort themselves out. And it's been interesting how the drivers who are laps down have sorted themselves out too. Wakefield and Pfeiffer are on their own lap, currently separated by 5 seconds. Lem and Fournier currently separated 2 laps down by approximately 13 seconds. Then you have Smith and Watson, who are currently 3 laps down. Ritters, who is 4 laps down. It's been intriguing how this plays out, just with how long the green flag runs have come into play here, with coming up to 12 to go.
Oh man, we might have to look for a replay. Iverson went for a ride once again. That catch fence, you're not supposed to be riding it, but Iverson has tried a couple of times to get up there. I don't think it's on purpose.
And I think it might have been a full straightaway, possibly, for the 65. And somehow we stay green. If this brought out a caution, this would have been absolutely huge. Take a look at it on the right side of your screen. This is the whole back straightaway.
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing drivers coming off of 2 extremely aggressively hard in the wall, and Iverson stuck on the wall, still stuck on the wall. And then you're going to see he keeps riding up it and then starts climbing. And you're not supposed to be doing that here in stock cars. And somehow was able to completely come off and no yellow wave.
Very interesting with the no caution flag as 10 laps to go. 10 laps to go as Dennis Moore crosses the start and finish line and now is checked out to more than 15 seconds the gap. Just 3 cars on the lead lap. And for Moore, looking to be the 6th different winner this season.
I mean, that's what the ARCA series gives, is potential chance for drivers to build that confidence of getting a win. 6 different winners. I mean, for some of these guys, they haven't won in years for some of them in league racing, and this is giving them their chance. And for others, it might be their first win ever in a league race. You love to see it when drivers have this potential chance. And this is only race number 6. Next week, we go to Charlotte Motor Speedway for 167 laps. That is going to be a long one for these drivers. I'm excited for that one because that's in the 2018 version of Charlotte.
After that, keep in mind Kansas, then Dover before Memorial Day weekend. So an interesting stretch of races where, yeah, Darlington, which is a beast of its own, then a couple mile and a half, then a short track, a concrete short track, 1 mile circuit in Dover. So it's going to be an interesting stretch for these drivers and really will attest to the adaptability that these drivers will need to learn throughout their campaigns here if they want to win the championship.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of them, I think they're excited to go 2 mile and a half racing. It gives them a chance to really then focus on their throttle control a lot more than just stay off the outside wall or don't get loose. Because at both Charlotte and Kansas, it's how well can you hold on to a machine that just wants to snap loose on you early in runs. And it's going to be fun to see how the drivers react there. But here today, Dennis Moore. Holy cow, he has really pulled away. Over 17 and a half seconds is the gap back to Paulison. Paulison's going to watch out as Burke. He's now less than 3 seconds on his tail bumper.
Still closing on in, and really real quickly here, want to give a shout out to Jimbo Pfeiffer as well. Someone who's come over from the major series as well. We talked about him in his run, looking to brush up on his oval skills. Just the 2nd race for him. He's your biggest mover, and he's kept the car clean the entire race. He's been one of the few drivers who hasn't really been involved in any incidents today.
Yeah, I think the only incident he's been a part of was possibly that 2nd caution, which, you know, a lack of, you know, experience in oval racing or just feeling a little bit rusty at it for Pfeiffer in a way that, you know, a little bit giddy to get going, shoving some drivers out of the way. But ever since that 2nd caution, Pfeiffer has stayed out of trouble and running in 5th place.
Coming up to 4 laps to go. We're under 5 to go here at Darlington for Dennis Moore in the Beaver State Racing Machine. And very impressive, the pace. It has been dominating pace from him. Potentially only 2 more lap cars to deal with. Other than that, clean track for your race leader to close things out. Under 4 to go.
Yeah, I mean, especially with how the race started, thought maybe Burke was going to have a better showing, but something that Darlington sometimes brings out, those different tire and fuel strategy runs on how drivers are going to have to attack. And again, I pointed it out back around lap 90 of how different the strategies were. You got drivers that have pitted 3 times, those that have pitted twice, and then you've got Wakefield who's pitted 4 times in the top 5. Just a lot of different strategies that threw out, and currently Morris has been doing a great job for himself.
And a battle for position as Wakefield's now had a problem. Wakefield on the bottom of the racetrack slow all of a sudden. So he's now sacrificed a position and moved Pfeiffer up 14 positions now. Coming up to the final couple laps in this one. Coming up to 2 laps to go. What a time for trouble to strike.
This is awful to see for Wakefield because I'm pretty sure it's the same spot of 3 and 4. That wall keeps on sneaking up on the apex of the corner, and Wakefield just all race could not get away from that just one spot of the racetrack.
Meanwhile, for Dennis Moore, chance for celebration. He scrapes the wall, coming up to the white flag this time by final 1.36 miles to go from Darlington Raceway.
Yeah, I mean, for Dennis Moore, great job for himself. White flag now in the air. And the rest of the field, I think a lot of them excited that this race is over just because of how tough it's been.
But what a recovery for Dennis Moore, involved in a big incident down the back straightaway just before the halfway point of this race. Ended up recovering the time and then some. And now, for the 6th time this season, we have a different winner. And his name this time is Dennis Moore. Dennis Moore wins at Darlington.
Absolutely incredible for Dennis Moore. He had to really work his way through traffic, being one of the first cars after the first caution, takes tires, cut his way through traffic. Once he got the lead, he never looked back until he was caught up in a race incident that almost shattered his complete day, being caught up with lap traffic, but able to recover and with a dominating win, over 21 seconds to win this race. The gap is massive between Moore and Paulison.
Yeah, and a great job by Paulison to use strategy too, Sam, to move into a top 3 position. Was at one point a lap down with the strategy, but now Moore gets the chance to celebrate. He is your winner at Darlington, the Northwest Racing Series in its ARCA Series.
What a run for the 44. I mean, it's got to be happy to finally burn it down. One of the cleanest cars all day long. You had a couple of, Darlington stripes that came along, but that's expected here. That wall is always going to sneak up on everyone at some point, but the cleanest car gets it done.
As celebrations now continue and the Northwest Racing Series tradition now starts, let's take a look at your unofficial race results for tonight's racing action. As these drivers now get the chance to celebrate. It's Dennis Moore who wins after starting in 3rd position, 21.615 seconds. It's the winning interval for him and Stephen Paulison. Carl Burke rounds out the podium, 24 seconds back of the drivers in the lead lap, with Jimbo Pfeiffer in 4th position. 5th goes to Judd Wakefield with Ryan Blum, Kevin Smith, Ray Fournier, Toby Ritters, and George Watson, your top 10, Samuel.
Yeah, and then 11th, you got James Vining, who came back 4 laps down, and then a driver that tried to be on the top of the wall multiple times, that of Iverson, and then you've got Hagan, who did a great job. Higgins did a great job for at least staying in the race, even though with all of his woes. Same goes for Frank Harris and Hera in 15th, and Robert Gamble going to be in 16th, and those that DNF'd were not able to finish out this race, that of Aaron Cooper and Dana Richards.
That's a look at your running order for tonight's racing action for the 6th race of the Northwest Racing Series' ARCA Series here at the iRacing's virtual Darlington Raceway. Take a quick break. Post-race coverage continues right after this.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and distributors. And with 6 nationwide warehouses, we're where and when you need us. So when you're looking for a transmission that is like new, only better, instill confidence and install ETE Reman.
Welcome back to LSRTV's coverage of the Northwest Racing Series and its ARCA Series. Here at the virtual Darlington Raceway, Justin Prince, Sam Dyer with you, with Carlos Acosta in the director's seat. As tonight, seen a massively long green flag run of more than 100 laps close things out. Just 3 cautions, 12 caution laps in this race tonight. But in the end, it's Dennis Moore who takes home the checker flag tonight. Dennis Moore will now join us into the broadcast booth for the chance to celebrate a race victory. Dennis, first things first, how are you feeling after such a big recovery drive after a big incident? 81 laps led tonight.
Oh, I feel great, man. It's like I said a couple races ago, it's really, really tough to win in this series. All these guys are great drivers, and Robert, I mean, he's gotten the wall. It is what it is. I had nowhere to go except into the back of him, but I'm glad I drove back to the front.
Yeah, Dennis, it's Sam, and I gotta say, what a comeback! Are you lucky? Are you feeling lucky though with the fact that your wreck happened right at pit entry?
Yeah, I was super lucky because I didn't have any steering. I was hitting the brakes and trying to steer at the same time, and I could hear the splitter dragging or something in the front. But if it was on the front stretch, I don't think I would have made it back.
Now, real quickly, the next race goes off to Charlotte. Your thoughts on going over to that racetrack for a day race?
Oh, I love Charlotte. It's probably my favorite track behind Homestead. This track is actually, I can't stand this track. It's so line sensitive, but I think being able to save tires is really important here.
Anyone you want to thank for the run tonight?
Yeah, I want to thank the guys at Beaver State Racing, all the Northwest Series admins, Jeff, Sean, everybody. James does a great job putting on this. James and Frank Harris, I think, is the other one. Also, Nicole Bryan Photography, and you guys at LSRTV do an outstanding job.
Congratulations on the victory, Dennis.
Thank you.
Dennis Moore, your winner tonight at the Darlington Raceway. He gets the chance to celebrate after what was an interesting one, to say the very least. Your next driver standing by is Stephen Paulison. Stephen, you used strategy to get up to second position. What made you decide to go for the one-stopper after the early caution flags in this one?
Well, I wish I could say it was just incredible planning and understanding what's going on, but it was, I was out there and I didn't know what to do. I was in first place, which was surprising me. So actually, Robert and Judd were in the pits getting repairs, so I asked them what to do, and they checked out where everybody was and said, just stay till the end. So that's what happened.
Yeah, Stephen, that was a great call by those that gave you that advice, gave you a great net gain. When you were out there running in those final about 30 laps, you're seeing Carl slowly gaining on you. Were you ever nervous that the 53 was going to catch up to you, or were you focused on making sure keeping those tires clean?
Yeah, I just tried my best not to crash. I did hit the wall once, lost a few seconds to him and thought that was it. And then somebody was tumbling. Didn't bring on a yellow, but somebody tumbled or something in front of me, and I really slowed down. Lost a few more seconds. I thought for sure Carl was gonna get me, but he must have just burned his tires out, because all of a sudden, last 5 laps, we were going about the same speed.
Next race goes to Charlotte. Your thoughts on going over there?
Oh, historically, I haven't liked the 1.5 milers, but this group, Northwest Racing here, they've been teaching me, and I'm getting better at it. So. Looking forward to it.
Anyone you want to thank for the run tonight?
Oh, well, thank James for putting this on, and Robert, and obviously Jeff and everybody else. And hey, this is a real treat. LSRTV, you're here today and watching us. I didn't expect that, so that's kind of nice that I get a good finish while you're here.
Congratulations on the run tonight.
Thank you.
Stephen Paulison, second place tonight on strategy. Carl Burke comes home in third place tonight. And Carl, talk us through your race, because you had an interesting one. You led 22 laps, and you had some ups and downs throughout the night.
Yeah, when it first started, the car just felt way different than it did in practice, and it threw me off. And then I about wrecked me and the leader, Dennis. And and then it was an uphill climb from there. And then I was sweating incidents too. I didn't want to get pitted for that, and I was close.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like the wall was just catching up to everyone here tonight, Carl. And for you, you were slowly catching up to Paulison. Did you just feel like you burned up your rubbers too fast for a chance to catch up to him?
Yeah, I was just driving way too hard. In fact, I was down to 56% on my right front when it stopped, when we ended there. That's why I couldn't catch him there right at the last couple laps.
Now the next race goes to Charlotte. What's your approach for that race as we get ready for race number 7?
Well, I really like Charlotte, so I'm hoping for a good race, but you never know. This car is a little different. I don't drive it much, so it's an uphill learning curve here.
Anyone you want to thank for your run tonight?
Yeah, for sure. I want to thank one of my new sponsors, Outdoor Cast Iron Cooking, Dean and Joni Hubbard. They have an online on YouTube show they do, and my team VSM, and you guys for broadcasting it, LSRTV, and I think that should be about it.
Once again, congratulations on the run, Carl.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for broadcasting.
Carl Burt coming home in third tonight. I'd like to thank him, Stephen Paulison, and Dennis Moore for taking the time to speak with us for post-race coverage. Now, Sam, your final thoughts on this one, because this was an intriguing one where incidents started off early, yes, but we've seen a massively long green flag run and a lot of talent shown throughout the race tonight and a lot of development from some more of those drivers.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of these drivers, I think it was a lot of mental fortitude, understanding, hey, if you're having a bad day, still stay out there on track. You might get caught up in a couple of other incidences, but still stay out there. And even for Dennis Moore, he was caught up in an issue. Every single one of these drivers had some type of blip happen where their plans got completely changed, and they had to think on the spot. Great jobs for them, and got to be excited. I'm so excited to say LSRTV, we're broadcasting the rest of the ARCA series. So, for Steven, he was a little excited that we were, broadcasting tonight. Excited to say we're going to be going through the rest of the season with these ARCA guys.
A great race overall tonight, but on that note, it's time to say goodbye. For my broadcast partner, for Sam Dyer, for Carlos Acosta, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your night. You've been watching LSR TV, your home for sim racing.